Hi, folks. I'm Brian Wiener. I'm with Lauren Morgan and Holly Hamill, and we are the Supernova Society. This is ideal number 8, create healthy energy exchanges. So the way we define it is to understand the energy you're exchanging with people and situations you surround yourself with. And you want to make sure to set and maintain good boundaries energetically, emotionally, financially, and physically. And make sure when you're expending energy, you know what you're giving and receiving and what you actually want to give and receive as well. So, why is this important? Why are healthy energy exchanges important? Good boundaries are one of the ways we show love for ourselves and ensure we aren't depleting our own resources. And time and energy actually are limited resources. So one of my favorite authors, Paulo Coelho, says, when you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. So unless we have like a time travel machine, we only have so many hours in a day to get things done. You have to divide between things you do for yourself, like work and hobbies and self-care and that sort of thing, and the things that you do for others. So, when you yes to everybody's requests, you may not actually have time for your own needs, and you could actually burn out quickly. So you only have so much energy and attention you can give. And if you use all of your resources to help other people, you may wind up not having any for yourself, and then you'll feel like used and neglected and even heartbroken. So setting boundaries allows you to be helpful now without winding up feeling burned out. So what we're looking for is sustainable contribution. So, we can give more over time in the long run. It is, it's also like a loving act for ourselves, right? When we say no to some things, we get to say yes to others. And it also lets people know like what we expect and how we expect to be treated, and it halts the enabling of poor behaviors. Oftentimes, like I thought I was helping friends or people by doing things for them, but instead I was actually limiting what they could actually do for themselves and, enabling them to be dependent. And this isn't to say we shouldn't do anything for anyone, but to be really mindful of where that line is in each situation. Holly, your thoughts?
Yes, I'd like to talk about sacred reciprocity. Sacred reciprocity is the symbiotic relationship between two givers, and that when both people are connected in a way that there is a sacred energy exchange between the two of them that's reciprocal. If you are entered into a relationship like this, it feels very fulfilling and divinely inspired, even, or it just feels really, it feels good to both parties. If you start to feel resentful, or if it stops feeling sustainable, or it begins to take more from you than you're comfortable with, then it's not sacred anymore, and a new boundary line is required. Without good personal boundaries, you can have an unhealthy desire to be everything to everyone, no matter what the cost to your health, your family, or your self care. But when we create healthy energy exchanges, it protects everyone and we empower ourselves. Brene Brown says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. A lack of boundaries often leads to deep seated resentment. So it's actually more loving and kind to the relationship for you to create healthy energy exchange standards early on and to review them often. Lauren?
Thank you, Holly. So how do we go about creating these healthy energy exchanges? We're talking a lot about boundaries. And first and foremost, with the healthy energy exchanges, it's really about balanced giving and receiving. And this isn't meant to elicit a tit for tat type mentality, because there are just natural ebbs and flows to all of our lives. And sometimes we go through periods where we are giving more than we're receiving. And then other times we are in a place where we need to receive more than we can give. And that's totally okay. But when you zoom out at the bigger picture, it's important to try and balance these two actions in your life. We've all encountered the person who'd give the shirt off their back. And, this is the person that gives to their detriment. And this has been a venerated archetype in our society. But honestly, this person is just as off center with themselves as someone that has more of that vampiric energy, and they kind of feel like a bottomless pit whenever you're around them. So it's really important that when we create these healthy boundaries, that we remember that when we're setting them and people are setting boundaries with you as well, it's an attempt to continue the relationship. It's not an attempt to hurt. And more often than not, I think that we can forget and we can take things personally when a boundary needs to be made and someone's establishing it with you, but it's paramount to recognize that the sheer effort required to have that conversation shows that this person desires to stay connected with you and keep them in your life. And so conversely, reminding people when you are making boundaries with them that it's your attempt to stay connected with them can also make those difficult conversations go more smoothly. So the way to establish these healthy boundaries is to start with frequent check-ins with yourself. What is draining me in my day to day? What is feeding me? What really sustains me? Do I feel worthy of receiving from others? Do I have some blockages or issues there? Or do I feel like I have something worth offering the world? Do I feel like I have something to give? So learning these things about yourself will immensely help in identifying where energy leaks could be coming from in your life. And when you understand these things about yourself, it's much easier to directly communicate them to others. And Holly, I believe you have some thoughts on direct communication.
Exactly. It's so important to be really direct and clear about your boundaries. And don't be afraid if you have to go back and reestablish them. Once you create them, it's really important to explain exactly what your standards are in healthy energy exchanges. You may think that if people really cared about you, that they would understand what you need without you having to tell them, but your loved ones aren't mind readers and they want to know your boundaries and standards. It's really important that you are your own advocate too. Sometimes if you are a giver to the point of your own detriment, then it creates a situation where other people have to step in and protect you and guard you too. And it's a energy imbalance. And so if we're just our own advocate right in this from the beginning, then it helps everything operate a lot smoother in society. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. So ask yourself, are you always giving in your relationship while your loved one constantly takes? Or maybe it's a boss or a friend. This dynamic is very common, and it's a sign that you may be in a codependent relationship characterized by poor boundaries. It signifies the need to create healthy energy exchanges. One of my favorite authors is Anne Lamott, and she says, no is a complete sentence. When you don't like something or something is crossing your boundary, you can just say no and resist the urge to explain your boundaries or make excuses for having them. That just gives people something to argue with you about. Brian?
Yeah, so we'd like to end with the following quote, which is by Mark Groves. And it says, walls keep everybody out. Boundaries teach them where the door is.
Powerful.
Super powerful.
Pretty powerful stuff. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. And I also want to just add, like, if you don't advocate for yourself, oftentimes nobody else will.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.
All of us. It's our own responsibility, and it creates healthier, loving relationships. So in your day, think about how can I create more healthy energy exchanges, and pay attention to the way that you feel when you do set those up or when you don't. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you guys.